Today, I'm meeting with Professor Dale Williams, who is Professor and Chair of Communication Sciences and Disorders at Florida Atlantic University. He is the author of multiple books on stuttering and is here to talk to us today about his new stuttering workbook. Welcome, Dale. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
That's okay. I suppose, first of all, would you mind telling us a little bit about the workbook and what led you to creating it?
Yeah. I think it's the typical story of a time traveler who jumps between memories, accompanied by a human version of his stutter. Same old stuff. Actually, the book is a story of a journey going from the fears and the frustrations and the shame and all the negativity associated with stuttering that can be associated with stuttering to a feeling of acceptance. So along the way, it covers problem sounds and words and emotions, secondary behaviors, the stereotyping of people who stutter, listener reactions, and a lot more.
Yeah.
It's told through the story of a man who can access his stuttering related memories. And at each step along the way, there are discussion questions and there are activities for the reader. It's meant to serve as an adjunct, a companion piece to therapy. That's how it would be most effective.
Mm-hmm. Great. So you've written a lot of books on stuttering. Why a workbook this time around?
A couple things led to that. A couple pathways, I guess, led to that. In the first three books, at the end of every chapter, I had a set of discussion questions meant to provide a little deeper understanding of the topics, and they were pretty well received. So the question became, how do I apply that to help people who stutter, which brings me to the second path. There are many resources available to speech language pathologists, and I don't know if that's the term used in Australia or not, but speech therapists, whatever it is, the term is in different places. There are many resources to help with speech tasks, but there's very little out there for tackling the emotions and the secondary features of stuttering. In fact, I would write essays myself for my own clients, and they seem to appreciate them. So I said, you know what, let's since these paths are converging, let's try to put together a workbook, and maybe some other people can be helped.
Mm. So the format as well is quite unique for a workbook in the way that it is a story with a series of questions afterwards. Can you walk us through why you chose to use that format?
So you're saying a science fiction workbook isn't typical? Uh,
I haven't
just
seen one myself, but
no, just being goofy. Yeah, I guess at some point I asked myself, if I were a reader, what would keep me going to get all the information that I needed to get? When people talk about their stuttering, and this is, people in my local support group going all the way up to when I saw Joe Biden speak about his stuttering, it's always a tale of life events. It's always a tale of memories. So I set out to create a story that reflected that.
So I've read the workbook and I really enjoyed it from sort of like an
Thank you.
outsider perspective. And as you mentioned earlier, in the story, there is a companion accompanying the main character. And as you said, it also sort of represented the character's stutter and how the character grows to accept the stutter over time. What role does acceptance play in this story?
Uh, acceptance is um, acceptance is really living with a stutter, the good and the bad. Accepting a stutter doesn't mean that you have to love it. It just means that it doesn't control your life anymore. Um, the what I'm hoping the book reflects is that acceptance in this process we're talking about is not so much a finish line as it is a goal. You can reach acceptance, but you can fall backwards. You can, you can begin avoiding again. You can begin giving into your stutter again, and then, revert to acceptance again. It is something that you can find yourself going back and forth in. So the companion, while at some points the companion is very ugly, when acceptance is increasing, the companion can become, well, I mean, I don't want to say more attractive. It's not, the companion's never going to be hot. It's just the companion is going to be less distracting. It's going to be less of an interference. And that's really, when once this thing that has controlled your life just sort of blends into your life,
Yeah,
I think that's a good reflection of acceptance.
yeah. Would you say that the story reflects your own journey to acceptance?
Well, I am able to time travel, so in that sense, it's idiotic. Uh, yeah, I think in many ways my own story is reflected in the pages. Not so much the individual scenes, but overall, I didn't realize I was on a journey as I was going through it. But then looking back on it, I was pretty good at hiding stuttering. But I never felt good about that. All that meant was that I was running away from it. I was giving in. I was letting it control me. I was letting it determine what I said and how I behaved. And I always saw that as losing. At some point in adulthood, I challenged myself to confront it, to say what I wanted to say. And each time I did that, I felt like it was a win for me, that I was finally getting a win against this thing. Yeah, I stuttered more, but I was now the one in control. And again, sometimes I catch myself, you know, in those bad habits, maybe avoiding, maybe feeling frustrated. That's the whole acceptance can be lost and re-won thing that we talked about before. There's always that back and forth, but it's one that over time I think about less and less. So I guess there's a grand acceptance that is occurring, and that's a nice thing.
Yeah. Well, that's all I have for you today, Dale. I'd love to congratulate you on your workbook. As I've said, I really liked it, and I think that'll be a great resource for people to just accept their stutter as well as like help them to overcome any sort of difficulties they're having at the moment. The easiest way to purchase the workbook, of course, is through the Hearsay website, which will be linked in the description of this video. And again, I'd like to thank you so much today for your time.
Well, thank you very much, Mickealy.
It's great to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.